1st, 2020. We would ask those who are willing and able to stand for the invocation delivered by Pastor Jeff Gannon, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor, the floor is yours.
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God of us all, we thank you and praise you for the gift and beauty of this day that you have made. We pray that by the power of your Spirit at work in us and among us, that you would help us to rejoice and to be glad in it. We give thanks for these public servants who give their lives for your glory and for the common good of those that they've been called to serve. We pray for wisdom. We pray for discernment. We pray for strength. We pray for our world and our nation, that in the midst of this pandemic, we might know your love, your care, your grace, sufficient for the needs of our lives. So we entrust this meeting to you. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. We'll jump into the approval of minutes for the regular meeting on November 24th. Has every member had a chance to review the minutes?
Mayor,
Yes.
we need to also include the special meeting minutes of November 19th, please.
We do. There's no objection to adding the approval of the special meeting for November 19th onto the printed agenda. Is there objection? See none. With that, we will add, and I will restate that we are now are looking to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on November 24th and the minutes of our special meeting on November 19th. Has every member had a chance to review both sets of minutes? Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, I will make the motion that we accept the minutes of the regular meeting as well as accept the minutes of the special meeting as printed. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded by Councilmember Fry. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast their vote. And for Vice Mayor Claycomb, you can either say aye or you can give us a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Aye.
Excellent. The volume is working. With that, we have a unanimous 7-0 vote on the minutes. Madam Clerk.
Proclamations, Socket Wichita Day.
First proclamation is for Socket Wichita Day, and I will read. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, founded in 1870, whereas Footprints ICT began in Wichita in 2019 and has distributed over 10,000 pairs of new socks to those in need. And whereas Footprints ICT has placed sock drawers in 50 Wichita area schools so students can choose a pair of socks for themselves. And whereas socks are the #1 clothing need for those who experience homelessness, for socks wear out faster than any other articles of clothing and are rarely donated. And whereas Footprint ICT participates in over 15 homeless events every month, and now therefore be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim December 5th, 2020 as Socket Wichita Day in the City of Wichita and encourage all citizens to show solidarity for those in need and recognize the great need for socks by donating new socks. Madam Clerk.
Second proclamation, Facts Not Fear COVID-19 Awareness Day.
The second proclamation reads as follows. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas the spread of COVID-19 is increasing daily in Wichita and Sedgwick County with no sign of abating. Whereas the African American community is disproportionately affected by the disease with more COVID-19 cases and death than other ethnic groups. Whereas the Black Alliance and Council of Elders have launched a multi-pronged COVID-19 hashtag Facts Not Fear campaign to inform and educate members of the community. Whereas African Americans who live in Wichita and Sedgwick County have more coronavirus risk factors that stem from working in essential fields, inconsistent access to health care, and chronic health conditions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim December 3rd, 2020 as Vax Not Fear COVID-19 Awareness Day in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to follow recommendations of healthcare professionals to reduce community spread of the disease and the strain on our hospitals. Madam Clerk.
Public agenda, Shakura Sentwali, banning chokeholds and related excessive force.
The chair recognizes Naomi over at Century 2 for the public agenda.
We don't have that gentleman in today.
Okay, so Mr. Sentwali is not there.
Mayor, I was told that she was going to join us via Teams.
Oh, my apologies.
I'm not sure how that's going.
Is there anyone who is waiting on Teams to join us? And is that it? You're shaking your head. Is that no? No one's on. No one's lined up. Unfortunately, it seems that this person is not available on Teams at this time, so perhaps we can schedule it for next week or next meeting. So we will skip over this part. Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items 1 through 11.
Has every member had a chance to review the consent agenda items, and if so, is there discussion on the consent agenda? Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't want to pull any items, but just wanted to highlight the Visit Wichita report and the unfortunate circumstance of this year. It looked like we were on track to have a really good year in the first quarter, and then, of course, COVID, those numbers went down, and it seemed to be pretty bad, but I just wanted to highlight we were starting off good, and hopefully 2021, we can see those numbers recover.
Further comments? See none. With that, I will make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Councilmember Fry. No discussion on said motion. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. We will be listening in for the vote of the Vice Mayor.
Aye.
The record show the Vice Mayor votes aye. Therefore, the motion passes unanimously 7-0. Madam Clerk.
Year-end budget adjustments.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm Mark Manning with the Department of Finance. Hope everyone had a happy and safe Thanksgiving. Today I'm here to present to you year-end budget adjustments. There we go. So just a quick reminder in our year-end process, we of course adopt the budget each year in August based on state guidelines. Those guidelines are that we will set maximum expenditure levels by fund, for example, the general fund. However, the city has a much more granular system of monitoring budgets. We're going to monitor budgets by departments, and in some cases, even by spending areas, for example, salaries and contractuals and things of that nature. So because of that more granular monitoring process, it's often necessary at year end to address any line item issues that we discover, and that typically leads us in December to the City Council to seek approval for any recommended budget adjustments, and also to address any other opportunities or priorities at year end close, which is why we're here today. So just a little background on 2020. To say the least, this has been a year of considerable turmoil. It's created a lot of challenges for us. Much of this on this slide is what I reported to you about 3 weeks ago. We do have some areas of increased expenditures, primarily in the police department, which we noted on November 10th when we presented the quarterly report. Obviously, COVID-19 has increased our expenditures and caused some challenges on financial reporting, and so we'll need to make some adjustments there. I noted when I did the quarterly report that some of our revenues are actually overperforming, particularly sales tax. I'm happy to report we just got our November sales tax a couple days ago, and that trend is continuing, which is a good thing. So that might create a little bit of flexibility in 2020 to address priority areas. And finally, just a reminder, we still have some long-term sustainability challenges. I don't want to lose sight of that. So the recommended adjustments that we're presenting today, first of all, are to address some line item challenges that we have, particularly in the police department, the park department, and the fire department. As I noted, police department had a lot of overtime earlier this year during the summer. In fact, will likely exceed their budgeted amount on a departmental basis. Park and fire are going to remain within their budgeted amounts, but they have some line item challenges, and fire related primarily just to some equipment needs and costs, and some equipment that went off a warranty and has a little bit higher maintenance costs that we didn't anticipate. Park is underspending significantly due to the reduced activity there, but they do have some challenges in the contractual area that we would need to address. As far as expenditures related to COVID-19, as you know, we set up a project account to try to record those expenditures. Now, as we get ready for year-end close, it's time to move those expenditures back into departmental budgets for year-end closing purposes, and that will require us to make some adjustments. On the other hand, now that we're in the process of applying for and receiving our CARES Act grant, it's time to shift appropriate expenditures to that grant account. So we're recommending those two adjustments. A few other year-end adjustments. We're recommending project transfers of about $2.1 million. Those are amounts that will help mitigate COVID concerns into the future. Specifically, that includes $2 million for a homeless overflow shelter project and a little over $100,000 to enhance the safety of our visitors and our employees here in City Hall. Mr. Johnson just mentioned guest tax revenues and the activity diminishment that we've seen there. And so for that purpose, or for that reason, we're recommending that we reduce the guest tax transfer into the general fund this year. We have another $5.2 million in transfers that are recommended. These will provide two advantages. This will help us be more sustainable into the future as we continue into 2021 into a continued environment which we think will be challenged due to COVID concerns. And I mentioned earlier, sustainability is a challenge, so we're recommending some transfers that will help us address sustainability into the future and also continue to help us deal with some of the impact of the pandemic. Finally, you may remember when we adopted the budget this year, we did recommend rate holidays in IT and fleet. At this point, we would recommend not implementing those. That will retain those assets within those two funds, which will, again, improve their sustainability going forward. So we would make that recommendation. So the recommended action is to approve the budget adjustments, authorize the project budgets, approve the bonding resolution, and authorize staff to take appropriate actions to implement council direction. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? The city manager just took his mask off, so the chair recognizes the city manager, who I believe has something to add.
Mayor, thank you. I just want to pass on my thanks to the staff for working through a very difficult budget year, also for putting together all the necessary support so we could apply for CARES Act funding from the county. And then finally, I want to thank the county for being receptive to our needs and providing us a little over, I think, $12.5 million, or close to $12.5 million in CARES Act funding, which is making a substantial difference for not just 2020, but hopefully in 2021 as well.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on this item? If there is none, then I will make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the budget adjustments, authorize the project budgets and transfers, approve the bonding resolutions, and authorize staff to take appropriate actions to implement the city council action. Excuse me, we need a second, that's what I meant. Seconded by Councilmember Fry. If there's no discussion on the motion, clerk will open the roll, members cast the vote. Vice Mayor, I'm not sure.
Aye.
There we go. With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion passes. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Substantial amendment to the 2019-2023 Consolidated Plan and 2020-2021 Annual Action Plan.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Sally Stang from the Housing and Community Services Department for the record. The first item that I have for you today is a substantial amendment to both our consolidated plan and our annual action plan. These are our 1-year and 5-year guiding documents for funding allocations and projects. So we receive annual allocations of funds from HUD. These funds are to align with the city's goals of creating a livable and sustainable community, and they're used to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and affordable housing. Our regular allocation this year included just under $3 million in community development block grant funds, a little over $1.5 million in home investment partnership funds, and just under $250,000 in emergency solutions grants. Included in our previous substantial amendment were allocations of federal CARES funds direct from HUD. We received a first round allocation of community development block grant in just over $1.7 million. We received 2 allocations of emergency solutions grants totaling just over $3.3 million. And now we have received an additional $1.9 million in round 3 community development block grant funds. We did not receive any additional CDBG CARES in round 2. So this amendment is to accept that funding allocation and designate projects. So our consolidated plan, we're in year 2 of our 5-year consolidated plan that covers 2019 to 2023. We also each year bring before you the program annual action plan, which defines what projects we're going to fund in that individual year. And so this is the 2020-2021 second program year action plan, and that was approved previously by the council on July 21st for the period of July 1st through June 30th. Staff is proposing amending the consolidated plan and the annual action plan to provide additional flexibility in addressing community needs and incorporate that additional CDBG CARES Act funding of just over $1.9 million. So the first component is adding program activity for the acquisition and rehab. This will accommodate funding activities involving acquisition of projects and rehabilitation of existing buildings to expand homeless and domestic violence shelter capacity and or increase affordable housing supply. The second component is the addition of that $1.9 million in CDBG CARES Act funding. And this provides for those new projects and activities to be identified and undertaken during the 5-year and 1-year plan periods. They do meet national objective to benefit low mod income or prevent slum and blight or address urgent needs. That's a requirement of all CDBG. And CDBG CARES funding, of course, then also has to prepare for, or respond to COVID-19. They also, not less than 70% of the funding must benefit low to moderate income persons. So the substantial amendment, the consolidated plan and annual action plans are required in order to comply with the federal regulations. They have been published on the city's website for public review and comment in accordance with federal requirements, which for CARES funding is just a 5-day posting on the website. There is no impact to the general fund as a result of this action. And we are recommending the City Council close the public hearing, approve the substantial amendment to the 2019-2023 consolidated plan, and the substantial amendment to the 2020-2021 annual action plan, and authorize the necessary signatures. And I stand for any questions you may have.
Questions for staff? Comments? See none. If there's no further discussion or comments on this item, then I will make a motion to accept staff's recommended action to close the public hearing and approve the substantial amendment to the 2019-2023 consolidated plan and the substantial amendment to the 2020-2021 annual action plan, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Second has been made by Councilmember Fry. There's no discussion on the motion. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote.
Aye.
With the Vice Mayor voting aye, the motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
CARES Act funding allocation.
Hello again, Mayor, members of council. Sally Stang again for the record. The item I have for you is a specific CARES Act funding allocation. Again, the city receives the allocations of funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development to create livable and sustainable communities and have strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and affordable housing. Feel like I'm repeating myself here. We received just under $3 million in CDBG and just under $250,000 in emergency solutions grants. As a result of the passage of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, the city has received additional CDBG and ESG allocations. We have until June 24th, 2022 to expend the additional ESG CARES funds, and we have till June 25th, 2023 to expend 80% of the CDBG CARES funds, with the remaining 20% to be expended by 2026. So they've given us quite a bit of time to use up the CDBG funds, and not so much time the ESG. So again, in total now, we've received $3,669,424 in CDBG CARES money and just over $3.3 million in ESG CARES funds. To date, we've allocated $751,399 for domestic violence shelter services, youth enrichment, internet access, food boxes, outreach, and administration. Under the emergency solutions grants, we've just over $1.5 million for hotel-motel vouchers for homeless experiencing symptoms or needing to be quarantined, shelter support services, outreach, internships, caseworkers, landlord incentives, and administration. And so we went out and sought a project to leverage resources for immediate response to COVID-19, while at the same time providing a long-term asset in our fight against homelessness. HUD provided many regulatory waivers and flexibilities in response to COVID-19. The ones I have listed here are ones just specific to this project. We've probably received 40 different Federal Register and HUD notices related to all the different grant fundings. But the ones that I have listed here are specific HUD notices related to this acquisition project that we're proposing. And specifically, CPD 2008 actually encouraged the acquisition of hotels for temporary shelter for homeless. So I was approached by Interest Bank about the sales listing of the 316 Hotel. It's located at 1011 North Topeka Avenue. It was built in 1998. It's a little over 23,000 square feet, and it has 56 motel rooms and common areas. It is zoned LC, which permits an emergency shelter and multifamily dwelling to be conducted on that property. Here's a map that shows where the property is located in the blue circle. You'll see just to the east the Via Christi St. Francis Hospital there, just to east Broadway corridor. The hotel property itself, the ground is owned by Via Christi, and they have a ground lease currently with the hotel owner, ADMJMWK1 LLC, for the hotel itself. So on September 21st, I met with all of the permanent supportive housing providers that are part of our continuum of care to discuss the possibility of acquiring the hotel for winter shelter and then conversion to permanent supportive housing for individuals experiencing homelessness. And of all of those members, only Humankind Ministries reached out to express interest in exploring the opportunity. Humankind Ministries was established in 1885 as the Wichita Ministerial Alliance to help those in need. In 1970, it was renamed to Interfaith Ministries of Wichita, and recently, in 2019, renamed to Humankind Ministries, embracing communities of all kinds and the work to help the homeless, those living in poverty, and vulnerable populations in the community. This map shows all of the properties. Those in yellow are the properties that are owned by Humankind Ministries. You'll notice that Broadway is to the east, to the east on the right side there. There are 9 properties there between 9th and Murdoch, Broadway, and the other side of Market, 9th Market. So they already own and operate different facilities, including homeless shelter, overnight winter shelter, permanent supportive housing, administrative buildings, etc. So they are a presence in the area already. When you look at the larger map, our target property is highlighted in blue, and you'll see that just kitty corner from the all of the Humankind properties. This proximity actually provides economies of scale for this particular project. So they do operate 10 different properties, 9 of which are located on this map. So the project vision is for Humankind Ministries to purchase the 316 Hotel, to use it as a 24-hour women's overflow winter shelter to expand non-congregate shelter during the pandemic. Right now, as we're seeing in the community, the outbreak, it's spreading. We're seeing that intensely among the homeless population. We have tremendous demand on our hotel motel vouchers that we're doing, and we definitely see the need for additional shelter this winter. Then we wish to reposition that property as permanent housing, as a long-term asset to expand housing resources for homeless population in Sedgwick County. The rehabilitation is to include adding kitchenettes to convert them from hotel rooms to studio apartments, as well as community space, offices for case management, and much more. It's a very comprehensive rehabilitation. After rehabilitation, Humankind can apply to the Housing Authority for a project-based voucher rent assistance contract with a term of up to 20 years to provide Section 8 assistance for the residents, and that provides long-term operational income to the project. Acquisition, the purchase price is $2.6 million. We're estimating about $10,000 in closing costs. We have $2 million that was identified in the earlier budget adjustments as city project funds, and $610,000 in CDBG CARES funding. Ascension Via Christi is providing a 40-year ground lease for $1 a year with an option to renew for an additional 40 years upon expiration. We're looking at shelter operations for 6 months, which is longer than the term for normal winter shelter, but we don't know what to expect from the virus, and that also gives us time to complete the rehabilitation while operating as a shelter. And we're looking at allocating $194,905 in ESG CARES funding for the shelter operation through June 30th. That rehabilitation is going to be about $1.6 million. These are preliminary estimates. That's for the kitchenette installation, HVAC, electrical upgrades, including the security system, plumbing, fixture replacement, roof repairs, painting, signage, asphalt repair and striping, appliances, fire protection, concrete grinding, window coverings, trash enclosures, and the construction of first floor offices for case management. We're looking at allocating $1.4 million in CDBG CARES funding and an additional, there'll be $200,000 in private donations. As a comparison, when we took a look at this project in comparison to other affordable housing projects, I actually pulled every project funded in 2020 by the Kansas Department of Housing. Low-income housing tax credits provide 98% of affordable housing construction and rehab across the country. HUD has stepped back from the development of additional affordable housing. They stopped public housing development in 1992, and there are very few, once in a while, Section 202 or 811 projects, which are specifically for elderly and disabled, that happen. But beyond that, 98% of housing development and rehabilitation, affordable housing, happens through low-income housing tax credits. And so from the 2020 allocations, I have listed up here every project that was awarded this past year. These are for new construction. The biggest thing that bothers me is Wichita's not on that list. We definitely have some work to do to work with our affordable housing partners to try and get on this list for 2021. But you'll see that the average per unit cost is over $195,000 per unit. And this is straight from the project applications and reservations. I also took a look at the 2 acquisition rehab projects that were awarded this year. And there are 2, and again, no Wichita projects. The average cost per unit is over almost $167,000 per unit. This project, the 316 Hotel project as proposed, will cost about $75,000 a unit. So we're seeing that we are definitely able to leverage resources and obtain 56 units of permanent supportive housing at a much lower cost than average. So we have identified that operationally, the project has a little bit of a gap, about $33,000 a year in gap. And that's based on our estimates of property management expenses, which includes property manager, utilities, pest control, regular services for regular property management. Security patrols, that's one of our biggest concerns. We wanted to make sure that the property has adequate security patrols, and we've actually budgeted so that with their case management staff staggering hours and being on site 56 hours a week, that they'd need 112 hours a week for security patrols. And this is budgeted using a private security firm. This is an area where in time adjustments could be made to bring them back into budget. The cost for 2 full-time case managers, other supportive services, and then indirect costs and overhead to Humankind. So we're looking at an operational expense of $418,000 a year and a rent revenue of about $385,000. And we're committing $66,000, so 2 years of gap funding for Humankind to either do fundraising to fill the gap or perhaps adjust the model used for security patrols to bring the project into budget. So this project also was subject to the 5-day posting rule, as we're using only CARES funding related to the HUD funds. So it was posted on the city's website on November 25th for public comment. Since that time, we've only received 2 public comments. One from the Wichita Midtown Historic Neighborhood Association, which detailed a conversation between that gentleman and Vice Mayor Claycomb and encouraged the residents to submit comments to us on this project. The only other comment that we received was a comment from a resident stating they were 100% in support. No other public comments have been received. All of the funding agreements are approved as to form by the law department at this time. And we're recommending that the City Council approve the funding allocations and recommendations, authorize the funding agreements, and the necessary signatures. And I stand for any questions. And I believe we have people at Century too.
We do. But before we get to them, is there questions for members of the council, particularly for staff? Get all the questions out of the way so that might help with those who have comments. If none, then we will go ahead and defer the floor to Naomi over at Century 2, and I believe we have, I believe 6 people lined up as of now. So Naomi, the floor is yours.
Great. We have 6 people at Century 2 waiting to speak.
Am I here?
Yes. So you just look in here and you'll see yourself in the bottom right, and then you just speak.
Can I take this off to speak?
Absolutely.
Is that okay?
We're still working to pull up the video though, so if you could bear with us for one moment.
Certainly. Here we go. We good?
I believe so. You have 5 minutes, sir. And
Great. Thank you very much. I'm Bill Williams. I'm the president and CEO of Humankind. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you just a couple comments this morning. Humankind is a 135-year history that I think Sally shared about earlier. We have an extensive history dealing with the areas of poverty and homelessness. Currently, we operate a year-round shelter, 3 emergency shelters, outreach services, and over 100 units of permanent and supportive housing. Our campus is just adjacent to the 316 project that's in discussion today. And I will tell you that this is a natural addition and expansion to our services that will directly impact the lives of hundreds of individuals over the next decade. We're talking about 56 units. That's 56 individual lives that are impacted, 56 opportunities for life change, 56 people who can have the trajectory of their lives changed by housing that's provided. With support services, 56 people who were on the street yesterday can begin to put the pieces of their lives together with stability and move forward. Yesterday, as I was contemplating today, I was walking our campus, and I walked to the edge of the campus and I was looking over to the 316 building, and a man approached me on the street. He said he was tired, and he looked to rest his head. And he was getting ready to check in at our emergency winter shelter, and I asked him, "How long have you been on the streets?" And he gave me his name, and he said, "I've been on the streets all of my life." I asked him how old he was. He said he was 26. And I said, "Are you looking for a permanent situation for yourself?" And he said, yes. He said he'd been working with the case manager, and he was on a list, and soon he hoped to have a place of his own. I don't know this man's whole story because I've never had to walk in his shoes. But if I did have to walk in his shoes, I would tell you that it would be his only pair, and that he wouldn't be the first owner of those shoes. The shoes would be 2 sizes too small, and they'd be torn and tattered. If you've never seen the impact that homelessness has, that extreme poverty has, walk the streets around the 316 building, and you will see it. This man's face is etched in my mind because this project could change his life. This could give him an opportunity that he otherwise might not have. 56 today, and in a decade, that could be 560. Now, I'm not naive, and we shouldn't be, that this project won't solve the issue of homelessness in our community. It isn't the final answer. It is, though, one piece of the puzzle that together can complete a picture. The vision of Humankind is to end homelessness. It's a lofty goal, unreachable maybe, but we should never neglect to do something simply because we can't do everything. I can do my part, you can do yours. Along with Humankind, the city, the county, leaders, the business community, we each must do our part, and collectively, we can accomplish those things that are unreachable alone. And this project, the 316 project, the studios at Humankind, will begin to help us do that and make a difference in the community for those experiencing extreme poverty and homelessness. And I would encourage you to look favorably on that because it's good for the city, it's good for the community, the neighborhood, and it's certainly going to make an impact in those people's lives who are the most vulnerable and hurting right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Who's next? Could you guys be ready to speak? Oh. Anyone? See yourself right there.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning, you have 5 minutes.
My name. Are you ready for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Robin Chadwick. I serve at Ascension Via Christi St. Joseph as the president of that campus and as the service line leader for our behavioral health service line. I am strongly in favor of this project that's before you today for a multitude of reasons. Having worked in healthcare my entire career, I see every day the impact that lack of stable housing, not knowing where your next meal will come from, what impact that has on people's physical health and mental health. As service line leader for behavioral health, I guess I'm approaching this project specifically from that perspective. So many of the patients that we see repeatedly in our inpatient units at St. Joseph have no home. They have no stability, they have no safety net, they have no network. They don't have what you and I have to catch us when we fall. They are in desperate need of stability, of a hand up to help them build the kind of life that we have and that we all want. Having access to shelter, a safe place to sleep every night is the first step in making that a reality. This project will go so far. As Bill has already spoken, 56 clients a year, multiply that over the decades to come before us, and think about the number of lives that we will impact, that you will impact by approving this project. We know that patients who struggle with mental health and with physical health, if they don't have a safe place to sleep, they're not concerned about where they're gonna, when and if they take their medications to keep themselves healthy, because they haven't met basic needs yet. So this project will help those patients who struggle with physical health issues and with mental health issues have that sense of security and a place to be safe, and then they can turn their focus to keeping themselves physically and mentally healthy and begin to build that life that they all want. So I strongly support you, or encourage you to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
See yourself in the bottom corner and just speak
Okay.
into it.
Welcome. You have 5 minutes.
All right. Hello. My name is Jason, and I work at the shelters for Humankind. And I would just like to say that I feel that this project would be a valuable asset to our community, because I myself have seen firsthand what these projects can do. I at one time was homeless myself and utilized one of these programs to get my life back on track. And I think it would be a wonderful opportunity to extend that hand to other people in this community. That's all I got to say.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next speaker, please.
So just stand right in front of her. It's just like a Zoom call. So you'll see yourself right there.
Welcome. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, good morning. So I'm Kristen Sampamuthi, and I'm the Director of Programs and Compliance at Humankind Ministries. First of all, thank you for having us today. I just kind of wanted to mirror what Bill was saying. The story he shared is just one story of a gentleman, but we see this every day in the work that we do. We've seen great success with our current programs, and this would be a natural expansion of what we already do. Through case management and supportive services, we will help residents address their unique challenges and build brighter futures for themselves and their families. The studios at Humankind, as I said, are a natural expansion of our existing 101 affordable housing units. The adjacent property will be an opportunity for us to serve more clients and uplift the surrounding areas. We are grateful to partner with the city of Wichita and the county to help combat extreme poverty in our city and fill a gap in services for those experiencing homelessness. Due to the pandemic, the need for shelters and affordable housing is on the rise, and the studios at Humankind will help fill the gap for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
I believe we have all of the speakers completed.
Excellent. Thank you. We appreciate it. So we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. Is there further discussion on this item? Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. No discussion. I just want to thank Sally and our team and all the folks over at Humankind for this effort and partnering with Ascension as well. These are projects that excite me, and I'm happy to support. And this is, I think, a wonderful step forward for those in our homeless community. So just wanted to thank you all for your hard work on this and making this a possibility.
Further discussion or comments? See none. With that, I will recognize the Vice Mayor for a motion. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a few comments. This project, I believe, is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because of the HUD CARES funding, and I think that our speakers spoke to that today. It's the opportunity to purchase a long-term asset to provide permanent supportive housing for people who are experiencing housing insecurity or homelessness. So I as Councilmember Johnson said, I want to thank all the city staff who worked on this. I know the work was in a very short time frame to bring this project to a vote today. I especially want to thank Director Sally Stang and her staff for their efforts. And in addition, I know that the legal staff worked on this, and the support of the police department was very important. And if I've missed anybody, I do want you to know that I thank you for the work that you did. I also want to thank Humankind for the services and expertise that they bring to this project. I met with their board a couple times on this project. And I want to thank Ascension Via Christi for seeing the vision of revitalizing the North Broadway corridor. Again, we couldn't do this project without either one of them. The support of Impact ICT Continuum Care and the support of the members of the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Coalition are invaluable as we move this project forward. And I want to thank, I think it kind of got lost, but I want to thank the private investors to this project also. This is not just the CARES Fund money and the city money, but also we've got private investors who believe in this project. So the project addresses multiple community needs. Our vision is to create a comprehensive resource for those in crisis. And in doing so, there's the added anticipated benefit of reducing crime for the neighborhood. The need for permanent supportive housing has never been more prevalent than now during this pandemic. So with that, I move that we approve the funding recommendation and authorize the funding agreements and the necessary signatures.
And I will second, and I'll just speak to my seconding and just thank Sally, Director Sally Stain for this. A lot of people maybe don't know what a treasure Sally has been to our city. She is someone who wakes up every day utilizing her position to better the lives of others, better the lives of really of people that might be strangers to us. But to her, they are folks who deserve a second chance, deserve all the services that can be provided. And she is someone who works tirelessly to look at what the pieces are on the board and how to utilize those pieces to get the biggest bang for her buck in service to our community. And that's evident not only in results and actually getting things done, which is rare in my experience as an elected official, is getting points on the board, getting things done, but also in the way she does it, in which when in her own slide, she shows that we are actually going to accomplish this huge feat in a more cost-effective way than every other city in Kansas, which shows that not only does she do this out of the good of really providing a service, but also does it in a responsible way that puts us at the top of the list when it comes to responsibility and utilizing taxpayer resources. So I just want to thank you particularly for this. And with that, the motion has been made and seconded. So we would ask the clerk to open the roll. And Vice Mayor, I'm not sure how you plan to vote on this, but I believe that the volume is on if you would like to voice your vote.
Aye.
Let the record show the Vice Mayor enthusiastically voted aye. And with a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Water and Sewer Rate Relief Program.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, members of the council. Alan King, Director of Public Works and Utilities. I'm bringing forward a program, the continuation of a program that we've had in place now. For a while now, since 2013, we've been trying to help people who are having difficulties paying their water and sewer bills or utility bills. And so starting back in 2013, we allied ourselves with an outfit called the Center for Hope with a program, Help to Others, H2O. And that program was funded by donations from folks, and that had been a success. But starting back in 2013, we found that there was a greater need, and so what we did was we came to council and we asked for another funding source, which was a 0.1%, a 1/10% rate increase. And with the combination of donations, which have become less of a contribution, and this 0.1% rate increase, we have now fully funded the H2O program. And actually, we have money that exceeds the demand that's through that avenue. So you look at, for example, in 2019, the average monthly revenue of the rates was $11,252, and that's the revenue exceeds what the demand is. So what we find is that we have an excess amount of money towards the end of the year. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to take that extra money and apply it in a one-time effort at the end of the year to help those folks that need relief on their rates. And this is what we did last year. The H2O funding, also known as rate relief, the supplement to the H2O funding, also known as rate relief, we administered it starting last year, and we got a $150,000 allocation. And we find that that did help with a $50 credit on the water bill. We administered about $16,650 in rate relief. We are at the same situation now this year, where we find that we have more money than the H2O program can administer. And so we would like to repeat what we did last year and administer this rate relief effort at the end of the year, and be able to use the same criteria we did last year, which is based on the poverty level, a percentage above poverty level. And we'd like to go ahead and repeat that this year. And actually what we'd like to do is we'd like to have this as a permanent part of our program, which is to administer the H2O or fund the administration of the H2O program, which is helping some people. And at the end of the year, if we have extra funds left over, we'd like to take those extra funds and apply them to people who have difficulty paying their bills. It's $100 one time for the H2O program. It's $50 for the rate relief program, also one time per year. The way that we know who would be eligible for this program is there's a low-income energy assistant program in place right now, and people that are usually get help with their power bills through Evergy, and they go through this application process. Well, we're going to use the same criteria, and even the designation that they've already achieved through this program, and so it really streamlines the ability for us to get the money to the people that need it. So we're talking about a $50 credit. Our recommendation is that this become an annual program now, that we continue the funding of the CARES H2O program, and every year about August, we look at the fund balance, and if there's enough funds, we'll do this one time at the end of the year help. We find that that may be especially helpful for people during the COVID period of time, but also we recognize that if we have more money coming in than we're administering it, maybe we're not getting the word out. So earlier the mayor had asked when talking about this program, what about messages on the water utility bills or other sorts of ways? So we're working with our comms team to try to get the word out better. We have a door hanger that we've developed that's in English and Spanish that we can actually put on residences that are struggling with their arrears payments on their utility bills. The idea being, if we can get people some notice and get the information out, it keeps their water from being, it hopefully helps keep their water from being shut off. The other thing we do that's not related to this funding program is when people are struggling with their water and sewer bills, we work out payment arrangements for them, particularly people that are suffering from unemployment problems, maybe temporary during this time right now. If we can simply spread out their payments so that they can eventually catch up over a period of time, that seems to help too. And so that has been very successful this year, and we'll continue that practice. So our recommendation is that the City Council approve an annual rate relief program and approve all the necessary budget adjustments. And I stand for any questions.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't know how you read all my notes on my sheet, Alan, but you actually addressed most of what I was going to say. I agree with the extended time frame in making this annual. My question to your last point, though, is nothing against Center of Hope, but are they the only group that we could work with to try to get that word out and administer the program? Are there any others? I know that Workforce works with Center of Hope. When I worked there, we would refer over, but they also know folks who might be, struggling in between jobs that could refer it, and that person may not always want to catch the bus over to Center for Hope or like that.
Yes, sir, Councilmember Johnson and Mr. Mayor. We have been in communications with other organizations, Salvation Army and others, to get the word out that this funding is available. H2O Cares still is the one who actually receives the funding and administers it, but we're getting a lot of referrals from other agencies to them. I think part of the challenge for us, though, is to get the word out more effectively than we have, and we're looking for ways to do that. So, but one of those strategies is to contact others that could refer them.
Okay. Well, I definitely like the door hanger idea and getting that out, and I know we'll put it in our newsletters, so I thought that was creative as well. My only other thing is, I know that we said we would operate this program December 2nd through the 31st or until funds go out. And I know last year, I believe we had a little bit of money left over after the December 31st date. Could we potentially say like through the end of January or until funds run out? That way people don't look up on the 30th or 31st and say, hey, I need some help, and then it's too late at that point.
Absolutely. At the direction of council, we can take your direction on this program. And we will, next year, if you approve this program again, if you allow us to do it again, what we would do is we would start it earlier, and the application period would be start in October instead of towards the end of the year. So hopefully a longer window, starting off earlier, will help us avoid the potential of us not being able to distribute all the funds, but certainly we can extend it.
Okay. Thanks, Alan. Well, I know personally I would like to see that extended to the end of January, just to make sure we go through helping as many people as possible.
I would also like to see it extended to the end of January, and would like to ask legal to for council directive to extend to January. Would that require a vote, or would that just require no objection?
I think your direction to staff is appropriate.
Councilmember Fry.
I just want to make certain I'm clear on what you're asking. Are you suggesting that just for this application year, it extend through January? Because Alan said in future years, we would start it in October and go through the end of the year.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're just asking for this program.
This year, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and see it as a motion, then we can make this official. Motion to, it sounds like Councilmember Johnson made a motion to extend the application process to the end of January of this year, and I will second that. Councilmember, is that a correct interpretation?
Just this one time, because the extended period helps in the future.
Okay, thank you.
of course, and it's a trying time, it is. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any more discussion on the motion? If not, clerk will open the roll. Members go ahead and cast their votes.
Aye.
With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Further discussion? See none. With that, I will make a motion to take staff's recommended action to approve the 2020 rate relief program, approve future annual rate relief programs if funding is available in the same year, and approve any necessary budgeted adjustments as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Councilmember Fry. If there's no discussion on the motion, clerk will open the roll. Members will cast the vote.
Aye.
With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
2021 water and sewer rate adjustments.
Again, for the record, Alan King, Director of Public Works and Utilities, and again, greetings this morning to y'all. We're here as a follow-up to a workshop topic that we brought to council about the upcoming need for increasing our water and sewer rates. And what we shared with council back in October 27th, 2020 were some rate adjustments, a projection over 10 years with the idea of looking at what we were asking for this coming year. The recommended rate adjustments are consistent with what was presented to council back at that workshop. What drives the need for rate increases in both the water and sewer utility mostly is our capital needs. 80% capital needs, 20% increasing costs for operating needs. When you look at the capital needs, we have a $304 million water capital improvement plan, a $490 million plan for water CIP, including $356 million for the upcoming biological nutrient removal upgrades that are necessary. That $304 million that we talk about in the water CIP, that does not include the $553 million already approved and shown in the 2019 budget for the water treatment plant. So the capital needs are substantial. We have some big challenges ahead of us, and council is giving us direction to meet those challenges in the form of appropriate capital improvement plan funding. We also have a need for keeping abreast on our operating and maintenance needs, salaries, chemicals, electricity, and what have you, for both the water and the sewer budget. That represents about 20% of the total budget. The key assumptions for the need for this sewer increase is mostly it's the biological nutrient removal requirement, BNR. And it's, like I say, it was currently in the CIP at $356 million. And that's assuming that we are going to be successful in getting state revolving fund loan at 51% of the project and WIFIA at 49%. This has potential for significant savings of the total project cost. The assumptions that we're using in the rate projections that we're showing you assume that we will be successful in getting the SRF and WIFIA funding. Also, the BNR project is currently under conceptual design, so the total costs and financing availability are yet to be determined, but we're working hard to make sure that we keep the project at the budgeted amount and look for opportunities like we did in the Northwest Water Treatment Plant to actually cut costs through value-added engineering. So to support a competitive 2021 letter of interest for WIFIA, BNR project funding was moved forward a whole year. We wanted to make sure that if there is an actual program that's been identified as existing, the WIFIA, that we don't want to wait another year and have it perhaps drop off as being available. So in order to be able to qualify for WIFIA, we accelerated the whole schedule by 1 year, which had some impact on the total costs of the project, the financial needs.
Alan?
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. In our previous SRF and WIFIA process with the Northwest Water Treatment, we did not receive 51% for SRF. So this shows full funding between the two agencies. predicted. You're saying that that will be a reality this time. That's the goal, or because we don't have to supplement with additional funding.
It is the goal. We won't know until we actually are approved for the funding, as you were saying. We're going to go for the whole 51-49% between the two, so the whole project is funded instead of a 49-49.
Right.
It's a little less problematic on the state revolving fund loan side of this. On the sewer side, it appears that they have more funding available, and the cash flow isn't quite the problem that it is on the water side. So we got to where we were because of what was actually available through the EPA and KDHE. What we're trying to do is, and we think there's support for this, is to have the project fully financed by those two loan programs.
Thank you, and sorry for the interruption.
Further questions? So you may continue.
So when we look at what staff has been doing to try to offset the rate increases, we have these pressures to raise the rate increases. Staff worked really hard to try to minimize those. So one of the things that had a big contribution on that is the guaranteed maximum price of the Northwest Water Treatment Facility. It was lower than the estimated amount due to significant value-added engineering. So that helped reduce the demand for increasing our rates. Also, we have had identified operational savings and fee equity improvements through our utilities optimization program, which is one of the programs that council directed staff to pursue. And the manager set us a goal for $6.5 million ongoing, which we have achieved, and that's included in the rate model that we've presented. And then we're also looking for, we are impacted by the extraordinarily low interest rates that we did get for the Northwest Water Treatment Plant, 1.17% on WIFIA and 1.48% on SRF. That very much helped our financial situation and gave some pressure to reduce the amount of increase for water and sewer rates. I believe it was Councilmember Johnson that asked us at the meeting when we were talking about these different things that were helping us with our rate increases, not making them as much. If you look at the red line, if that was what the rate increases would have to be over time to be able to cover the costs before we did the value-added engineering that we were talking about. By having the design build team and having the sorts of successes that we've seen so far out of that effort, instead of that red line, you see the green line, which is what the rate impacts are, reflecting the benefit of the value-added engineering. But in addition to that, like I said before, we had favorable financing by being successful in securing WIFIA and SRF and at very low interest rates. And that's the blue line, or the lowest line. And that's the actual rate increases that we're looking at as far as projecting for council. So the green line is what we project the rate increases will be, with the assumptions that I outlined earlier, that we will be successful in getting WIFIA and SRF for the BNR project and other assumptions. So as you can see, we're looking at just a little over 5% for a period of time, and then it drops down to somewhere around 4%. This is a point that was made, and I believe the mayor made sure that we were clear on this. These are rates of increase. So when you see a line going down, it does not mean that rates go down. It means that the projected rate increase goes down. When you see that level line, it doesn't mean that rates stay level or steady. It means that the amount of annual increase stays steady. So that's what this graph represents. But what it does show is, compared to that orange line, that we're below what you see as far as the national average for similar sized cities. So our projections show that our rates of increase are below the national average for cities our size. So when we're looking at the rate increases that we're proposing, we always show this to council to show the impact on an average monthly, on a combined monthly water and sewer bill, and we show it for different types of customers. So for example, residential low, mid, and high that designation being determined by the amount of water that is used by that residence. You can see that the 2020 cost for a mid-residential combined water and sewer bill is $73.27. That would be raised by $3.66 under the increase that we're proposing to council today. Similarly, we show what the rate impact would be for kind of an average commercial user and for a kind of an average, if there is such a thing, industrial user. So what we try to do is provide council with this information so they can see what the impact would be of the proposed rate increases. So when you look at, for example, how we compare with other cities, for example, the residential 7,500 gallons type of customer, we're ranked somewhere as the 7th lowest. These are estimated because they do this annual survey for the 50 largest cities, and we just dropped down to 51. I think it was New Orleans that replaced us. And so we're no longer in that list, but what we did is we took the numbers and projected them and compared them to what we're talking about. And as you can see, we rank favorably. 7th lowest in residential, 3rd from the bottom, it has the lowest for commercial, 6th for industrial. So water rates continue to be comparatively favorable compared to some of the other 50 largest cities in the U.S. So our recommendation is to approve the recommended rate increase, which is actually a series of adjustments in the ordinance for the different kinds of classes of customer, for an adjustment of 5.17% for 2021, and place the ordinances on first reading. And I stand for any questions.
Questions? There's no questions, then I will make the motion to approve staff's recommended, or to accept staff's recommended action to approve the combined 5.17% rate adjustment for 2021. Place the ordinance on first read and authorize necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded by Councilmember Fry. If there's no discussion on the motion, members cast the vote.
Aye.
With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Paving improvements to 13th Street North, Ridge to Tyler.
Welcome.
Morning, Mayor and Council members. Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. The item before you this morning is proposed improvements to 13th Street North, east of Tyler Road. This project is directly adjacent to Wichita Northwest High School, and we do propose that the funding be in coordination with Wichita School District. So with that, I might talk just a little bit about our partnership with the school district and how we got to this point. Staff from Public Works Engineering meets with district staff on a monthly basis to discuss traffic and pedestrian needs near Wichita schools. This is something we've done for several years now. It's been very beneficial to all of us. Each agency has committed annual funding toward necessary safety improvements, including sidewalk, pedestrian signals and signage, pavement markings, and street upgrades. Normally improvements that can fit within the budget that we have each year. A particular project has been identified for improvements to 13th Street North, again adjacent to Wichita Northwest High School, which will not fit within the annual funding plan. And so in planning ahead for this, we do have funding included within our capital improvement program, which I'll talk about more in just a minute. This is a little bit hard to see the details, but just to orient you with where we're at, Tyler Road is on the left, 13th Street's in the middle. You can see the Northwest High School campus labeled in the lower center, and the new commercial development basically there at the corner of 13th and Tyler Road. The current, basically it's 4 lanes now through the high school area. You can see there are 2 points of ingress and egress, with the main one being in the middle there, the wider road section. We have heard from the school district, including previous superintendent and now Superintendent Thompson, about concerns, and talking to the principal there too. There's some visual issues at that main entrance, and it's a little bit deceiving with the current lane configuration to try to tell where traffic's at. Accident rates have not necessarily been high, but it's been a concern that we've looked at with them for some time now. We evaluated possibility of a traffic signal at that location that is not warranted. So we started looking at other things we might be able to do. This section of 13th Street headed westbound, it's got some right turn lanes that are kind of broken up as you're getting closer to Tyler. So it's a little bit of an odd lane configuration, and we think by going in and making this more of a standard 5-lane through the high school and then connecting to the turn lanes at the intersection will really clean things up, provide better visibility and perception for oncoming traffic, especially when exiting the campus. There's a petition included with the item today for the portion of the cost for the school district. It meets all the requirements of state statute and is valid per the same. They have signed the petition to represent 100% of the improvement district. The total projected project cost is $350,000. The final cost would be split 50% between special assessment to the school district and 50% to be paid by the city at large. The adopted capital improvement program includes funding for the full cost of the project. At the time this was programmed in the CIP, we weren't sure then what the school district's commitment would be, but with the petition in place, it will now be half of the final cost of the project. The funding for our side is local sales tax in 2021, and all of that is being requested at this time. Once the project's completed, 1/2 of the final cost, or up to $175,000, will be reimbursed to the city by way of special assessments. So at this time, approval of funding will allow design to be completed and construction to begin in early 2021. With that, staff recommends City Council approve the project, the petition, and the budget, adopt the resolutions, and authorize the necessary signatures. I'd be happy to stand for any questions, and I do think there is a representative of USD 259 at Century 2 to speak on this project.
There is. Or someone there to speak. Is there questions before we get to the speakers for staff? If not, we'll go ahead and divert the floor over to Century 2, where I believe we have one speaker.
So you just look in there and you'll be right there.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. You have 5 minutes.
All right, thank you. Well, good morning, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Luke Newman, and I am the Director of Facilities with Wichita Public Schools. I'm here this morning just because I want to say thank you for your ongoing partnership with us. As Mr. Jansen indicated, it has been a really mutually beneficial relationship that has allowed us to address some really critical site access, site improvement projects adjacent to our school buildings across the city. We're really excited about this project as it'll really greatly improve the safety conditions around the site, the Northwest High School site, that have really kind of been an ongoing issue ever since the new development occurred along at the corner of 13th and Tyler. So with that, I really just want to say thank you again for the ongoing partnership and support. It's been great, and we really look forward to many more projects to come.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. All right, discussion on the item. Councilmember Johnson?
Thanks, Mayor. Gary, real quick question. Is there any plans for potentially engaging the students on this? So like we did on 17th Street and the baseball and the crosswalk, which everybody who sees it loves. Is there any opportunity to get student engagement from Northwest on maybe a crosswalk or any type of artistic element?
At this time, there is no plan. With a relatively limited budget, our primary focus is a little bit of pavement widening, new surfacing, and pavement marking. And so we hadn't contemplated that. There are no crosswalks planned. If so, it'd have to be something that we would have to look at for signalization. And I don't think with the adjacent land use, particularly on the north side, that there's necessarily been an issue associated with that. So I appreciate the thought. I don't think with the nature of this project that it lends itself to that very well at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Bluebog.
Thank you, Mayor. Hey, Gary, one question real quick. Just looking for consistency. I think this is exactly the way we set it up with Goddard Eisenhower High School whenever we had to do the improvements out in front of their buildings. I don't know if you remember that specifically, but I think this was done the same way.
With the Goddard Eisenhower, the primary funding source was special assessment to the school district there for turn lanes. And those turn lanes were specific to the site itself. But at the time, we really didn't even have this funding framework in place, even with the Wichita School District at the time that was developed and completed, because in the past we had previously done improvements like this that are specific to the school district site only as assessments to the school district. This project in particular provides a benefit to the city also and users of 13th Street, including the new commercial development at the corner. So I think there's a little bit of difference on 167th Street when we made the turn lane improvements, because those are very specific to the site only.
Okay. I know another factor too was it was on the city limits of both Goddard and Wichita.
It was, correct.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Really no question, Gary. I just wanted to say that this was identified as a need early on in my first term, so it's been on our radar for some time. The additional commercial development on the corner certainly increased that need for some additional traffic support. So I really appreciate the solution, the improvements that'll happen, and the partnership with 259. The key here is making it as safe as possible for those students and employees at that facility and the surrounding development. So this is a perfect example of us working together as bodies and providing solutions for our neighbors. So thank you.
So if there's no further discussion, Councilmember Fry, why don't you retain the floor so you can make a motion?
Thank you. I make a motion that the City Council approve the project, petition, and budget, adopt the resolutions, and authorize the necessary signatures.
And I will second that motion. There's no discussion on the motion, then clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote.
Aye.
For the result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Contract for site-wide monitoring for North Industrial Corridor groundwater contamination site project.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of Wichita City Council. Don Henry, Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities. The item before you this morning includes a contract with SCS engineers for the North Industrial Corridor site-wide monitoring program. As has been reported before, the NIC project area encompasses about 4,000 acres through the North Industrial Corridor of the city. It's an area with groundwater contamination of multiple commingled plumes that are the result of historic industrial activity in the area. The city manages the remediation under a settlement agreement with the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. And as part of the corrective action decision, the city is required to establish the baseline contaminants and the ongoing progress of the remediation. And so the contract before you this morning would include services that would provide 10 sampling events and all of the analysis and reporting that's required under the order, as well as repair and maintenance of any monitoring wells that are found in disrepair during the sampling events. Now, the 10 sampling events would include 2 semi-annual events as well as 8 successive quarterly events through the year 2022. And we had a really good response to the RFP for this. We had 9 proposals that were received. The staff screening and selection committee interviewed 4 companies, and SCS Engineers was selected based upon their experience, their schedule, and price not to exceed $552,625. And it's well noted here that SCS's price is well below the engineer's estimate of $894,000. Again, this is planned work. It's necessary under the settlement agreement with KDHE. Therefore, the funds are available in the NIC operating budget. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and provide staff's recommendation to council to approve the contract, authorize the necessary signatures, and approve any necessary budget adjustments. And with that, I will stand for any questions that you might have.
Is there a question or discussion about the item? If not, this falls into District 1, so I'll divert the floor to Councilmember Johnson for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that we approve the contract, authorize the necessary signatures, and approve any necessary budget adjustments.
I will second that. So is there any discussion on a motion? If not, clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote.
Aye.
The result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Resolution adopting the Wichita Transportation Agency Safety Plan.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Jay Hinkle, Deputy City Attorney, and serving also as the Wichita Transit Safety Management Systems Project Manager. I'm sorry. Thank you. The first link between federal grant funding and safety performance for transportation organizations came through congressional MAP 21 legislation passed in 2012. The next year, the FTA announced a goal to move off of the plateaued safety performance that had been seen for years and move towards a sustained, continuous improvement model for safety performance. After years of study and comments from the industry and from the public, the FTA announced a nationwide process standard, and they gave a 2-year adoption time frame. The deadline for adoption of the safety management programs is December 31st. Transit. Transit agencies are too varied in size and facilities and usage to have uniform national performance standards, which would be fair for all agencies. What can exist and what FTA is requiring is a uniform process to identify and respond to safety hazards. Safety Management Systems is the name given to that process, and it has 4 central components. Safety management policy emphasizes the top-down focus with clear management ownership and participation. Safety risk management establishes an objective means to identify, classify, and respond to safety hazards. Safety assurance provides quality control that keeps the process on track. Safety promotion is communicating the importance of safety, starting from an employee's hire with continuing messaging reinforcement afterwards. Safety management policy includes top-level endorsement of SMS processes and setting reasonably achievable goals, making responsiveness to safety part of job description and performance evaluation, and an anonymous employee safety reporting program that the FTA requires, which allows reporting without fear of repercussions. Through safety risk management, risks are rated on objective standards of severity and likelihood that are based on agency and community expectations. Available mitigations are assessed and put into use. The goal in this process is to drive risks as low as reasonably possible within the constraints of each agency's resources. Quality control and quality assurance for the SMS is a constant inquiry. Questions are asked such as, are the mitigations successful as intended? Is the agency meeting its safety performance goals, and if not, what adjustments are needed? Are employees practicing the policy as intended, or are there slips away from expected performance? And what new ways of improvement have surfaced? Safety promotion includes internal communication through various channels to regularly reinforce the important role each employee has in safety awareness, precautions, and mitigations. It also includes external communications to the governing body and to the FTA to report on improvements attained. There are no implementation costs for this program. SMS uses current staff and resources, but uses a new focus in their administration. Wichita Transit expects to see cost savings related to reduction in employee injuries and third-party claims. Wichita Transit will also likely benefit from greater employee retention caused by improved morale. SMS compliance is necessary to continue federal grants for capital acquisition and operating expenses. It will be a primary subject of inquiry during the triennial review later this spring. It is recommended that the City Council approve the proposed resolution adopting Wichita Transit Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan and authorize the necessary signatures. I stand for any questions.
Are there questions on this item for staff? Not, is there discussion? Seems that we don't have any discussion or questions, which means you've done a thorough job explaining the item. With that, I will make a motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the proposed resolution adopting the Wichita Transit Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan and authorize the necessary signatures. Does Councilmember Fry second?
I do.
It's been seconded by Councilmember Fry. If there's no discussion on the motion, clerk will open a roll. Members will cast the vote. And our Vice Mayor will chime in with an aye, voting in the affirmative, meaning this passes 7-0. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember appointments and comments.
Chair recognizes the Vice Mayor, Claycomb, who has informed me that she has an appointment.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to appoint Shauna Miller to the CSBG Review Committee.
Mr. Sean Miller has been listed as an appointment. Are there other appointments from other members? So we can do this all at once. If not, I will second the appointment. Clerk will open the roll. We can vote. There's no discussion on the motion. The appointment. With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the appointment does pass. Moving on to comments. The comments for the good of the group or the public? I should probably make a comment that one of the interesting things about being mayor is I inherited a challenge, but none so more challenging than the Philverse Mayor Challenge, which is with Phil, who is the DJ over at 104.5 The Fox. And our new challenge is to encourage folks to go downtown to the Red Cross and donate blood as they are participating in a shortage of folks who are donating blood. And this is the time of year where they really need it. Now, for Phil, I was on his radio show yesterday, and he encouraged folks who voted against me to go and to donate blood and to vote for Phil. So I would encourage, as I am asking folks to go there and vote for the mayor. But either way, we're hoping that we get a good showing of folks who are willing to donate blood, vote for either Phil or the mayor. Phil has asked if he wins for pretty much a holiday, a full day named after him. I don't think we can do that, to be honest, so it's kind of important that the mayor wins this one. But in exchange, Phil's going to offer me, I think, an hour of playing classical rock on his, if I win, on his radio show, which frankly, no one should have me pick out classical rock for an hour for a radio show. So arguments for voting for either person, I think, are vast. But anyways, we hope people get out and actually do take this opportunity to donate some blood to the Red Cross, because again, they are in need, and vote for either myself or Phil. Phil really needs this win. It's 2-1 mayor right now, so this is really important to Phil. So any further comments? Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to add on to that, I gave blood earlier this year. Just want to encourage more people to do so as well. And then I know earlier there was a request for people who had COVID-19 antibodies. So those of us who have recovered definitely think about going to give blood. And the only way I would vote for the mayor right now is if you change that from classical rock to Christmas music.
Christmas. Well, I told him I'd bring my iPod, and he just posted online, he tagged me in it saying no one wants to hear my iPod, which quite frankly is right. But if you do go and donate blood with your COVID antibodies, I think that would be appreciated, and I will press you to figure out who you voted for in the end. But
Christmas music.
Christmas music's what you voted
I'll
for.
vote for it. Well, does he get to sit in your chair if he wins?
So, I mean...
All day? Like you have to sit in the other chair?
He runs a meeting? That's a good question. We're going to have to get legal to help give us an opinion on what exactly can we delegate to Phil if he wins. Yeah, anyways, like I said, we really kind of need this council to win this one, so, because I think Phil's asking for like a building to be named after him. All right, so with that, again, we want to encourage people during this time to donate blood, particularly if you are one of the folks who have made it through COVID and are healthy, and you fall into this category of specialized blood that they were looking for, then please help out, particularly during this holiday time. So that's probably the longest announcement we've had in a while. So I will see if there's any other announcements. See none. With that, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by by Councilmember Fry. Clerk will open a roll.
Aye.
With the result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the meeting has adjourned. Thank you all, and we will see you next week.